as a recovered people pleaser, this subject matter truly hits home for me. I was the type of individual who believed, as most of us do, that the good deeds that I did, the charitable actions that I would pursue, were strictly rooted in the goodness of my heart, right? I believed that I just did good things because I had goodness in my heart, and that goodness was overflowing and pouring into the lives of others, when in truth, I did those things in order for me to receive a reward. Now, it wasn't the type of reward that most people would think of when you think of receiving a reward. You might think of a cash reward. You might think of somebody doing something or giving you something in exchange for whatever you were doing. But what I really was looking for was a sense of validity, of validation. I was looking for worthiness in all the wrong places. I was looking for people to validate me in who I was, and I did so through my acts of good service, my utility, right? Whatever that looked like in the moment, whether it's washing a dish or, folding your laundry for you, or just doing things around the house for you in order for you to recognize me, see me, and say, you know what, this guy, he's good enough to exist. I know that sounds crazy and it sounds far stretched or whatever it may be, but the reality is more of us than not are living out this exact script. We're living out a script of the need to be needed. That's right. Most of us have the need to be needed. We simply want to be needed. Whether you are a parent with your child or a child with a parent, it works both ways. Whether you are, the pursuer in the relationship or the pursued, there seems to be this tying link that was programmed and conditioned into us, which is this need to be needed. I need other people to need me in order for me to feel like I am enough. Let me run that back a little slower for the ones in the back. I said, we need to be needed in order to feel as if we are worthy to exist. Simple and plain. And when I first discovered this, I saw it clear as day. I didn't necessarily discover it. I rediscovered it, or it was something that I finally accepted because it was something I saw, but I continued to ignore. I continued to suppress it, right? My spirit was yearning for me to see these patterns in my life because they were leading to the worst elements of my life. They were leading to undesired consequences and undesired outcomes. The exact opposite of what I looked to manifest in my life. I was bringing in, its counter or the contradictory elements of that into my experience. And the reason was because I was continuously operating from a place of neediness or operating from a place of needing to be needed. And I was able to justify my actions, and I was able to kind of play this mental gymnastics with myself because I'd become so good at seeming as if I didn't need to be needed, right? So I would be the person who was kind of this rugged individualist. I didn't need other people's help, but I was always the one who was helping other people. And that's how I portrayed myself. That's how I showed up in the world. And so for me, it was really kind of this counterbalance where it's like, okay, it looks like he's this helper and, he's doing all these things for people and looks like he really doesn't need anybody's help. But in truth, the reason why I'm doing the things for the other people is to help myself. It was inherently the most selfish act I could partake in. I used to have this belief system before writing this book, Doing Me Guilt-Free. I had a belief that selfishness was to do for yourself, when in truth, I now realize that that version of selfishness was programmed, it was conditioned into us in order for us to continuously do for those people or for other people. So if somebody wants you to do something for them, they will call you selfish if you do something for yourself in order for you to turn back around and start doing things for them. That's what the program is about. That's what that mantra or that statement is used for. A person will only call you selfish. The person will only say you are selfish when you're doing something that is either for somebody else or for yourself, usually for yourself. The moment they turn and do it for you, they are no longer selfish, right? If you see somebody spending millions of dollars on things that they want, you call that person selfish. But as soon as they turn around and start spending the millions on you, they're no longer selfish. It's like a miracle. I don't know how it happened. Oh, just in the blink of an eye. It's unbelievable, really, right? So I really had to start to deconstruct the belief systems that I had about what I was actually doing and why I was doing these things, and also why I was afraid to do certain things. Like in the same vein that I would do all these things for others, I was afraid to do certain things for myself. In the same way I was quick to drop anything I was doing in order to help somebody else build their business, I was merely avoidant of building my own business. I was avoidant of creating my own content, but I was fast to go record somebody else's. And until I started to question that, I just believed that it was because I was a giver, right? I'm just a person who's so devoted to everybody else's purpose, when in reality, I was doing the exact opposite. I was looking to satisfy and fulfill the perceived void within myself, the perceived lack within myself. And I've now come to a place where, I am, there's no perfection per se in any human. I don't think that's the goal, is to be perfection, but I've now come to a state where I not only realize this, but I've also transcended and moved from that. And I'm on the other side where I'm now self-validating. I have the ability to validate myself. Now, do I sometimes catch myself looking for, external sources? Absolutely. But it's no longer at a place where I have a desire and a need for somebody else to step into my life and to do things in order for me to feel like I am enough. It's no longer the need to be needed, but that only came through a processing. That only came from a healthy processing and being honest about those emotions, being honest about where I was, as opposed to lying to myself about my intentions, as opposed to lying to myself about why I was doing what I was doing, as opposed to having to create this facade and this image for the rest of the world, while internally I was a completely different person, right? Internally, in my innermost, I was the most bitter and resentful person you probably would have met, but on the surface, I look like, this happy-go-lucky, peace-filled individual. And the reason I created this mirror facade of this image was to continue to get that external source of validity. That's why I did it. That's why I hid from myself, no matter how painful it was, no matter how much it irked me, no matter how much it disrupted my peace. I needed to hold on to that old identity. And so this isn't necessarily the message about shifting the identity, as important as that is, or the self-image, as we would call it, self-concept, etc. But this is more so to do with the recognition and the awareness about this need to be needed, right? Do you carry with you every single day? Do you carry with you this pervasive, perpetual need for people to need you? Are you always the one to drop things in order to pick up other people's stuff? Are you always the one to neglect your own emotional, quote unquote, needs in order to fulfill other people's desires? Are you always the one putting your stuff on the back burner in order to pick other people's junk, basically, other people's mess up? Right? Is that the lifestyle that you've become accustomed to? Is that a part of your identity? Are you the helper personality? Right? Like, I am a coach, I am a teacher. That is what I do. That is what I does. And so it was a fine line for me to get from, I am helping to I'm trying to save people. I'm guiding, as opposed to I'm trying to change people, or I'm trying to be this thing for people in order for them to be something for me. So that being said, that is the reason why I wrote this book right here. Boom shakalaka boom. Doing Me Guilt-Free. This is my first published book. It's going to be the first of many, but to be honest, this one I believe mattered more than any other book I could write. It mattered more than anything else I could devote my time to, because I believe it's what not only you need, but what I need every single day of my life. These reminders are the ones that reprogram my mind into remembering who I truly am, and that I am not here to fulfill some type of obligation for another person. Instead, I'm here to live authentically. I'm here to live in my personal power, and so are you, right? And when we live from that place, when we live from that state of consciousness, things start to shift, things start to change for ourselves as well as those around us. People get a greater sense of power when you're living in your own. But when you're living from a place of weakness and neediness, needing to be needed, nobody benefits, not even the people you're doing those things for. They're getting the crumbs of who you are when they could be getting the whole bakery. And you're obviously getting the crumbs when you could be owning and running the bakery. So that's my message for today. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. More importantly, get yourself a copy of that book. I'm going to leave the link in the description below, as well as the comment section. And I'll also link, I have a few links down there. The first one is going to be the book. The second is the course that is connected to the book for those who are ready to embark on like the full-fledged immersive experience. I have a link in there if you want to book me for speaking engagements. I have a link in there if you want personal training. So make sure that you get active, that you take action. More important than anything else, whether you and I work with each other or not, make sure to actually apply what we talked about today, and your life will start to gradually change, and eventually you'll look back and not be able to recognize the person back there. Appreciate you guys. Till the next time, peace.